Hey guys, so today I want to do something a little bit different and I want to show you footage from one of the mentorship sessions that I have with my students in the Animator Guild Academy. Now, the Animator Guild Academy is for certain students who chose that tier within the Getting Started course. Ragnite was there in the session and together we had a really interesting conversation. Ragnite was making progress on the 4th animation exercise in the course, the turn and aim demo. I thought it would be good to draw over his work in progress animation to show him where he could change things and improve things about the animation. This is what Ragnite's animation looks like before the mentorship session. And this is what Ragnite's animation looks like after the mentorship session. I basically took his animation, drew over the top of it and manipulated it in ways to show to him how he could improve or change his rough animation. I think this could be useful to those of you who are looking to improve your action choreography, your timing and spacing, and your camera movement in your frame-by-frame animation. I want to give a very quick introduction to what the Getting Started in 2D Animation course involves, what it's all about. So, like the title suggests, it's a 2D animation course, and the aim of it is to give you all of the information that you need to get started as a 2D animator. Drawing principles, animation principles, hardware and software, storyboarding, story writing, animation production, editing, sound, and more. The Academy is currently fully booked, and it's going to be that way for quite a while. But the full course, where I actually teach these things in video lessons, that is open, and the link to that page will be in the description and it will be up there on the info card for you to check out. You can read more about it and how you can sign on. When the few Academy spaces become available, the full course members are going to be the first ones in line to get that upgrade to join the Academy if they want to. So the best bet is to join the full course right now if you're thinking about becoming an Academy member. Ragnite stands out to me as being an example of a really disciplined, self-teaching animation student. The call lasted over 3 hours, so I've had to shorten it here. I've just shown a chunk from this session. Alright, that's my introduction over with. I hope you enjoy.
Reading.
No, I was gonna say no. It makes sense because if I were to make like a simpler example, it would be like the bouncing ball, where first you have the main keys would be like you have the ball bouncing, or you have the ball at the when it contacts the ground or when it's at the top of the arc. That would be kind of the main key of the ball bouncing.
Yeah.
And then for the extremes, what you could do is one obvious one is like when the ball contacts the ground, you can have when it does like the squash and stretch.
Yeah.
When it squashes would be like the extremes of the animation of the ball like squashing towards the ground.
Yeah.
And then another extreme would be as it when it stretches, when it comes off the ground, it stretches a little bit, and that would be kind of another kind of extreme before it kind of returns to its normal shape.
Yeah.
And then the in-betweens would be like the drawings in between those that would help guide your eye through the animation.
That's a good way of putting it. Help guide your eye, because they link things up, don't they?
Yeah, because like when I do my studies or even this animation, I know what's happening and I can kind of guess what's happening, but there's still enough like shakiness to where it's still like not smooth, or it doesn't like help me guide. It doesn't help like basically I kind of have some imagination to like how things go from point A to point B to C to D. But when you have when you have in-betweens, there's nothing for you to guess. It's all there.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just you for the it's there for you to just see it. You don't have to interpret anything.
Absolutely, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the difference between like reading a book and watching a movie. With the book, you're imagining everything, how scenery looks.
Yeah.
When you watch the movie, you don't. There's nothing to imagine. It's all there in front of you.
Yeah, I mean it's an inbuilt human ability. It's actually an inbuilt animal ability. It's called the persistence of vision. So, your eye can, if your first frame's there and your second frame's there and so on, your eye can link them up together, and that's the basis on which frame by frame and all animation is made on, because your brain has the ability to do that to quite a big extent. Like you can stretch these out quite wide. You know, you could go to like maybe that, and as you stretch them out further, the strobing increases and the quality degrades.
Yeah.
Strobing is the phenomenon of those being spaced just too far apart, so your eyes are struggling to link the images together.
Yeah, I guess I would equate it to like being in a nightclub with all the strobe lights.
Yeah.
And if you look at it at a certain angle, everything that looks like it's like moving like frame by frame, and rather it being smooth because the light's flashing at a certain cadence. Like, I think that's the thing I always like is like I like having an intuition to something, and when it came to that, I didn't have any kind of intuition to it. So like I never like implemented it in my workflow.
Right.
Because like where do I put it? Because I don't know why it's. I mean, I know I kind of know why it's there, but for the sake of working, I don't know why I'm doing it. But now I know why. So that actually makes more sense. And I think I will go back. Yeah, and I will go back and do I think one of my walk cycles and like do in betweens.
Okay. Yeah.
Just see how that feels. Yeah, it gives me more motivation to do that, because when you first said it, I was like, that's a lot of drawings, dude.
Yeah. And it's fine to have some reluctance towards drawing, and I think that's something that is misunderstood with animators. Like, oh, you're an animator, you must just like drawing and you just do loads of drawings. But like making it, because you're an animator, you understand that, you know, you're not gonna want to draw unless you have to. You gotta kind of be selective over what you decide to draw, where you decide to allocate your in-betweens, because there's only you, and there's a limited amount of you to go around.
Yeah, that's why when we were doing like the walk cycle, when you were like introducing it and doing the steps, I was so overjoyed that it was so fast, because I was doing like a couple like profile ones, and it took me like less than like 10 minutes to do.
Yeah.
Because normally it would take me like an hour to do, because I was not only was I doing keyframes, I was doing in betweens unknowingly.
Yeah.
So then I'm just like, damn. So then going into it, I'm like, man, this is gonna be so torturous. And then after the video, I was like,
oh no,
I'm doing this all the time now.
I'm stingy with my in-betweens, dude. I'm stingy with those in-betweens. Like, yeah, I did do an in-between version of that walk cycle, because I knew it was going to be like on the cover of like promoting the course. Mm-hmm. So I did end up making one, but like I was reluctant. Like, I don't in-between lightly. You know, I'll do an in-between if it helps the motion, but you know, if I can get away with like just clever timing and spacing, motion blurs really help, by the way. If you want to do less in-betweens, motion blur that stuff, because that helps with the persistence of vision. It helps your eye to recognize where the thing has been, and follow that motion path.
Yeah, it leaves like a trail.
Yeah, you can get away with way less drawings if you motion blur everything. So it's tactical.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, cause when in the assignment, when you were doing the in-betweens, I was like, skipping this video, not doing that. Sorry.
No, it was just like, I just kind of wanted to document the whole process, and like, because otherwise there are some people being like, what did you do between that and that? So I felt like I had to put it in, but I time-lapsed that really fast. You know, I sped it up to like 10 times speed in case anyone was watching. I tried to add some commentary to like So you're not just staying and be doing endless in betweens, but actually learning something.
Because even for my portfolio, I did add more drawings to it to kind of smooth out the drawing, but not enough to be called in betweens. Because I was just like, I'm drawing the same thing over and over, and I have no details at all. So imagine if I have like clothing and hair and all the other stuff that I had to draw over again. So I was just like, oh god, why?
Yeah, this is why you have to, if you go into freelancing like I do, you have to charge a lot. Like, otherwise it's just not worth it,
Yeah, because it's like I feel like I'd have to like watch a whole entire season of anime for me to get through in betweening.
Yeah.
Like a sequence, because that's just how many drawings it is. You have to like check it to make sure it's not like way off. And I'm like, please kill me now. So I get it. I totally get it. And that's why when I end up doing my portfolio, I am gonna do just one piece where I am going through like the entire pipeline.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping, and I'm really trying to make it something that I'm really like passionate about, and I'm like really happy to do the in betweening. Not happy, but like I'm willing to put in the effort, because I really
do it
want
for
to
like
see how
a
it
scene
ends
you're
up.
happy to look at for a long time. Like when I sign on to do a music video, if I do a music video commission, it's like one of the criteria that I mean, I have done music for things that I haven't liked, but I tend to say like, I need to enjoy this track. I need for it to not be unbearable.
Gotcha. No, that I can see that,
Because you'll be looking at it, you'll be listening
to it, yeah,
over and over again, like countless times. You'll know the words inside and out. You'll know the inflections on each word as they're said. You'll know all of it.
Like, hey, does the guy have a lisp? Oh my god, he does.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you'll recognize all of it by the end.
But no, yeah, I'm glad you said it, because sometimes if I don't hear anyone else say it, then I feel like I'm the only one who thinks that way. So I'm glad I'm not the only one who thinks that way.
What about music videos?
In-betweening.
Oh, in-betweening, yeah.
Well, the music video makes sense because I've done something to like 3 seconds, and I swear I feel like I can like do the whole song just because I can tell how the next the next part of the song will go. But no, yeah, the in-betweening part is like it's rough, and again, I want to do it just for the information, and just so I can demonstrate I can do it for potential clients.
Yeah, you're gonna have to do it.
Studios.
You're gonna have to do it up to a certain point. There comes a certain point where you can hire someone to in between for you. If you're doing commissions, I like use the money. Like I use part of the money on the commission to subcontract to an in betweener, and it's I make sure that there's enough in the budget so that it's actually like a good business decision. It's not just like an indulgence, but like I make a small profit from hiring an in-betweener.
No, that makes sense. Because I mean, the client doesn't care if you hate in-betweening. That shit better be smooth.
Yeah, like that's a big difference. You know how in the start of the course I talked about the difference between being a pure animator versus an animation producer. So like with an animation producer, your client won't care how you get to the end result as long as you do.
Yeah.
And so you can hire an in-betweener. Like you don't have to in-between. You can do things how you want. You could hire 3 in-betweeners if you think that's necessary. You are the expert on how you do it, and you can develop your own workflow.
Yeah, because my dad is he was hired to like build a house, and then that's what he did. Is like once he had the money, he just hired a bunch of people who did different things like electric, plumbing, you name it, installation, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And he was basically like a foreman. So I was like, no, that makes sense, because I couldn't imagine him doing a house by himself. That would be like years of time.
Yeah. You got to think like, what do you want to do? Do you want to do high value tasks or low value tasks? And the fact that anyone can step in and do an in-between means that it's a low-value task. It doesn't require a lot of expertise to do an in-between. It takes a lot of expertise to do a keyframe, but not an in-between.
Yeah, and then I guess for me, I haven't. I mean, I have. I know I haven't like thoroughly thought about like how I want it to be in the industry. All I know is I want to work on this kind of anime or this kind of show, and I want to be able to draw. I want to be able to like to draw anything. Not to say I study everything, but have the skills to where I can approach subject matter and not be too fret about it.
Yeah.
But I've never really like thought about like what role I wanted to play in that. And then when thinking about, you can be a key animator or whatever, but like those people are usually the people with like a lot of experience under their belt, a lot of knowledge.
Well, I mean, I skipped out a huge amount because I just didn't want to ask anyone's permission to do the job I want. I just wanted to go for it, and that's why I didn't even send in my application to a lot of studios. I paid a visit to some studios to kind of, to be honest, to like find out how they work and to sort of steal their methods.
No, that makes sense. I got you.
In the friendliest sort of way, like not anything that was like
not
under NDA or anything, but just like, oh right, like they've got that's what their setup looks like, software, things like that.
Yeah.
That's when I realized they all use the same software that I use. I was just like, oh, that's cool, because I've been under the impression that like there's like these, because you hear about like industry, you gotta learn the ropes, you gotta learn how it works in the industry, and it's like, what? Like, tell me what is it that I gotta know, because like, yeah, and I just sort of realized it's not really that. It's just about like take how they handle feedback and stuff like that, but it's all stuff you can learn.
Yeah, I guess for me, part of the reason why I would like to work in a studio, at least initially in my career, is that I like the environment of learning very fast.
Yeah.
While doing like high value projects, because and there are two examples why I like it. First, when I learned to play tennis in college, I went to like a club that my college offered, or my university offered, and the people who are like mainstays have been playing for like years, and usually at the start of each like semester, there's like a flood of people who want to try it out, but then after like a week or two they leave. So I was part of like that initial group, but I stayed for like almost 2 years. But like after those 2 years, I was at a point where I could play these people in like actual matches. I would lose a lot, but I could like hold my own.
Yeah.
And I did it in a short amount of time. And it's not like I tried to take any shortcuts. It's just that when I'm not playing, I'm observing what they do.
Yeah.
So I want to be in that environment where I can observe what people do, and then on my own time I can do that and apply it to my own thing. And I just want to be able to just absorb as much as possible, and I feel like I can do that when I'm around people who are a lot better than I am. So I would prefer to be in the studio for that reason. And then if later on I'm like, you know what, I don't like having people tell me what to do or when to do something, and I'll do my own thing. But I already have the knowledge I already stole or acquired. Yeah. So that's kind of like why I wanted to be in the studio initially. And from our last talk, I did look into Zettai Absolute, the people who got jobs in anime.
Yeah.
And I've been kind of really closely watching like what they do and stuff, just to kind of see what I can do to tailor my portfolio so that I can get a job like they did.
Yeah. Nice, dude.
I get your point. I guess for me, and maybe people who think like me, is I am more focused on like the end result, which is for me the reason why I'm drawing, the reason why I want to get better, the reason why I started animating, and that's to be able to work on, quite frankly, like either my favorite animes or favorite shows or favorite like studios that do my favorite stuff.
Yeah.
And and then the whole, and when you're like not in an art school, like we, I don't know, I think you went to art school, but I didn't. I basically just learned on my own. So it's like it's like for me, it's like, how do I get to a point where studios will look at my stuff, and then how do I kind of how do I improve from there?
People ask me like, do I need to go to art school? And I say, you don't need to go to art school, but you need to be a certain type of person, like a certain character to power through on your own. And you are that type of person. I can tell, like from your activity, the rate at which you move through these things, the way you ask for feedback on everything. You're not afraid of getting feedback. You're actually actively looking for feedback, asking for it, and you take it on board, you improve. That's the kind of thing you need. And you're doing it, dude.
Yeah, no, thanks. And I will say, it's not that I'm not afraid. I'm actually very afraid for feedback. It's just that after I get out of my feelings and I actually improve it, I'm like, well, this is way better.
Yeah.
Never mind. So like, yeah, that's what I've learned. Is like, it's not that I'm not afraid. It's just that I'm willing to accept the negative feeling of how I feel about it, because I don't take it personally, obviously.
Yeah.
But when someone's like kind of talking a bit negatively, not well, constructively about your stuff, it's easy to take it negatively because it's something you worked on for a couple of days, weeks, or however long.
Yeah.
But like once you kind of talk yourself down from the cliff and you're like, hey man, he's just talking about stuff you can make better. And then once you get out of your head, and then it's like, oh, I get it now. The light bulb has turned on. So that makes sense. But that mainly kind of comes from coming from like a household where there's not a lot of income. So I don't have a lot of options. And so when you don't have a lot of options, you make a decision. It's like, do you want to not have it because you can't afford it, or do you want to work towards something, and eventually you'll get to where you want to be? And to me, it was, I want to work towards something and get to where I want to be eventually.
Hell yeah,
So for me, up until 2017 was when I was like, I'm ready to like start transitioning to the anime industry or animation, because before then it was, I need to get my bachelor's and get a job out of college, and then have some savings, which I wish I've done already.
That's
like
awesome,
USD.
man. Well done.
So I have all of that, and I have a decent job. I can work from home, and I can even work even during this pandemic. So I still have an income. So now it's just use the income to like fund the education.
That's
where I'm at right now.
How are you gonna recognize when you're there?
So I used to have a lot of trouble with that. So what I've been doing is Instagram has been like a good source of that. So there are a lot of people who I follow on Instagram who either has worked on anime or worked on like a project that's almost anime. So like Samuel D who did like Castlevania.
Yeah.
There's some people who worked on like Naruto or One Piece or whatever, and I follow them, and I see what kind of quality the work they put out on their Instagram, because obviously they're busy, so they can't just like put out masterpieces. They put out sketches.
Yeah.
And so what I do is I gauge where I am compared to what they're doing, and see if I can kind of get close to their results. I don't try to copy it, but I want to see how easy I can get to the results. If I struggle, then maybe I need to put in a little bit more work. But then there comes a time where I have to really get like an accurate assessment of where I am and to see if I'm hireable.
Yeah.
So that's what I did in November when I went to that convention, is I wanted to see, and I wanted an honest assessment of where I am. So luckily, where I went to, the powerhouse guys were there. Like the people who did Castlevania, they were there at the convention. So I literally talked to them pretty much the whole week, almost the whole weekend. And they were saying that, yeah, we really like your gesture drawings, and I think I wrote notes about what they said about my animations. But for the most part, like the thing that I took away from it was that they really want to see me put more details into my animation, like more character details,
Yeah.
so that things are a bit more recognizable. And then they help me with some timing issues with some of my animations.
All right. Yeah.
But
Nice.
for the most part, they're like, yeah, like everything else, like your fundamentals look really solid so far. And we would be interested to see, an upgraded version or like an improved portfolio later on. So from there, I kind of had like an idea. I had like a general idea of what I wanted to improve on, or stuff I wanted to learn before my next portfolio piece. So now it's the learning part, where I'm figuring out what I want to learn, hammering that home, and then work on a portfolio. Because initially my goal was Lightbox in September, but that got canceled. But I can still make a portfolio for September, just not with the intention of showing at Lightbox. It could be like I have a portfolio and maybe I show it off to like an artist or Twitter, show some stuff on Twitter, and make sure that people in the industry can like look at it or have access to it or something, as like a what's the word, a alternate solution to just going to Lightbox and having everyone there or something like that. It's still like in the works, but it's given me enough, I guess, hope to where I can like struggle through learning things just for like that later on, for the later reward of getting hired maybe, and then I could quit my job because I don't like my job, but it pays well.
So your goal is to completely transition and work on the shows that inspired you in the beginning.
At least get on the road to, because I don't think I'll get there yet, because I don't think I'm good enough to work on the shows that I want to, but at least get on the track where I can learn quickly. And that's why one of my more immediate goals is to see if I can get hired by Powerhouse.
Yeah. Because
they're the closest to doing anime in America. Like I think a majority of their pipeline is here.
Yeah.
So that and I've seen some of their stuff on like Vimeo.
It's very impressive.
Yeah. So, and also like Samuel Deeds posts a lot of his cuts on either Instagram or Tumblr. And I actually used to follow him on DeviantArt, and he did like a Naruto versus Sasuke like fan animation.
Yeah,
and
I saw that.
For him, he's like he earnestly believes that with him doing that got him the job where he is right now, and I believe it, because it was actually really good even like 10 or so years ago when he did it.
You know what though, I wouldn't interpret that as, oh, I need to go out there and make my own Naruto fan animation. I don't think that's the thing that got him the work. The fact that it was Naruto. I think the thing that got him the work was the fact that it was well animated. I don't think that the fact that it was, and that's why I think you got to be careful with that. That like, don't take all of the information of that as like he made a Naruto fan animation and he got hired and is now a director, therefore I need to make a Naruto fan animation specifically, just make a good animation. Doesn't have to be a fan animation.
Yeah. Well, I guess where I was kind of getting at was that also I got the wrong name. It was Spencer Wan, not Samuel Deeds.
Dude, that guy is...
Spencer Wan is the one who did the Naruto animation. Sorry.
Yeah, he's a prodigy.
But and what the thing is that when I say it, I don't mean like I gotta do a Naruto or a famous established IP. It's just more of that he's able to animate in a style that's reminiscent of what they do in Japan, which is why with Spencer Wan, he actually worked on Boruto, like an episode of Boruto. Actually, one of the best episodes of Boruto, he worked on it. He actually exactly 65. So I was like, all right, that's this. Like I all I know from watching him is that it's possible, and that's all I care about. I don't care about what he did specifically. I just know that it's possible.
Yeah.
Because I had the idea in my head for years. I just didn't know if I could do it, but I still work towards it. And then now that I see like Spencer Wan, I see like LaShawn Thomas, all these other guys, and I'm like, nah, it's possible.
Deshaun
I just
Thomas
gotta like,
is like, he was the guy who changed so much. Like,
oh yeah, I
he's
watched
been the
his
first of a lot of things.
yeah, I watched his Soul sessions when he like
Yeah,
did
that's
his
so
blog
cool.
when he was in South
Yeah.
Korea. Yeah,
I love
that really like inspired me to say like this is possible. Like I know it. And then like following his Cannon Buster series, which is now on Netflix, like
Yeah, I backed
that's
that
sick.
on Kickstarter.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I wish I did, but I was like too broke
Yeah,
to
it was
do
probably a bit too long ago for you to know
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, because I saw it and I was like, man, this would be so sick if it happened, and it did, and I was like, holy shit, it was crazy. Like I would say after watching it, like it was like a bit average, but I was more. I mean, I'll admit it is a bit average,
Yeah.
but the fact that it exists and that I saw it from conceptual idea to like a full-fledged anime,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, this is it. This is a dream that someone who's not born in Japan can do. Like it doesn't matter. And I was like, all right, that's where I'm gonna be in that category. Not in the same way, but in that category. So yeah, so that's kind of like where my drive comes from. Just seeing people do something that I think is, or I once thought was almost impossible, do it, and kind of see like a roadmap to get there. It's like, all right, once the roadmap is there, I'm there.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of just when.
Yeah, you know it's possible now.
Yeah.
You got case studies. You can point
Basically,
to.
yeah, exactly. Like at this day, Spencer Wan worked on Boruto 65. And I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah, I mean, he is one talented dude. Like, his sketchbook alone just like blew my socks off.
Yeah, and then another example is a Kickstarter game called Indivisible, where they have the opening animated by Studio Trigger.
Yeah.
Like that, yeah, like that's crazy. I would never imagine like a game made here would be animated by a studio as famous as
I wonder
Studio
what
Trigger.
the budget was for that.
I wonder too, and I hope one day if I work with these people, I'm gonna ask them seriously, like, yo, man, how much money did you pay them? Because I know you got Yo-Yo Shinari doing some stuff, and he's not a scrub. So how did that work out? Because I think even one of like the anime conventions that was here, they came to America for that convention to like advertise Indivisible. And I was like, man, I wish I was there so I can just like ask him for like critique, like, hey man, here's my stuff, how's it look? Or I'm an aspiring animator. I find someone to translate in Japanese and I'm like, how's it look to you from like an eye test or something? I would have done it. Yeah, because like when I was at the convention, I did see a lot of artists I recognized online, and I never really like I was never starstruck. I just kind of like was pretty straight with how I approached them, and I was just like, hey, how you doing?
I always get starstruck meeting an animator.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I get proper nervous. Yeah.
All right. That's interesting because like at the convention I met Aaron Blaze.
Oh, cool.
I met the Bancroft brothers. Like both of them were there.
Yeah, I met. Can't remember which one. I think it was Tom Bancroft. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, they're actually perfectly identical. It is really tough, and they have like the same sense of like clothing style. So it's like, man, I might as well just rolling the dice there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, yeah, I met them, and I met Glenn Fipple, because he was like doing demos, and I was asking a bunch of questions to him, and yeah, I never like felt starstruck. I just knew they were good, and I would observe them for a little bit and ask questions based on what they were doing, and they gladly answered them. Like, I don't know, I have this weird mentality where I don't like to idolize people, but I do like to appreciate what they do.
I can't help it. I'm just like, oh. Look who it is.
No, it makes sense. And also, what helps too is that there are other people who are like starstruck. So then I don't like to associate with other people like that. So like it kind of like if I were starstruck, it kind of snapped me out of it. But like I can't be like them. I gotta be real and ask the
Yeah,
hard hitting
yeah.
questions, and not just hey, what kind of paper are you using?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
yeah
you don't want to ask one of those.
I've heard it
What
asked
software are you
in real
using?
life. I was like, why would you ask that?
What
At least on the
pen?
internet, you can get
Oh,
away with. Yeah, they asked it in real life. I was like, why? You can get away with it. You can get away with it on the internet, but not in real life. Cause how do you answer that?
yeah.
Those
You know they
really
get
weird.
asked all the time, and it's an insult as well because it's like, oh, you know, it's because of the hardware you use. That's why your stuff looks good, right? And it's like such an insult. Like, do they realize that? Probably
Like
not.
they don't, cause like they're just trying to
They're
like
just looking for something
draw
to
like
say.
them.
They don't know anything. They don't.
Yeah.
They don't have another. I do get it. Like it's just like I want to talk to him. He's right there in front of me. I gotta say something. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, and then I also met Will Weston.
Will West.
I don't know if you've seen his stuff, but he's like a teacher at Art Center, and he basically posts a lot of his like mini lectures of like how he draws things, how he approaches subject matter, and he was doing like kind of a primer of what he would do for at his own courses, where he would describe you would start with like these primitive like shapes which would build into like like what would be human figures or environments or what have you. And I would say other than like my current mentor like Mike Matesi, Will kind of has the way he approaches everything is kind of how I like to approach subject matter as well, like really not scientific but logical, and it's also applicable to like a lot of different things. So when you kind of go into like learning different subject matter, it's not, oh, how do I draw this specific, like if I'm like trying to draw a dog, it's like, oh, how do I draw like the paw, or how do I draw
Yeah.
like the nose to look. No, it's more of what's the overall structure that makes a dog, what makes it different from a human or something, and then once you understand that aspect, then you can draw it. It's just a matter of what kind of dog you're drawing. You don't really particularly care if it's like a golden retriever or a bulldog. You don't care about that. All you care about is like the overall structure of a dog. And if you have that down packed, then you can do everything else pretty easily. And people who like kind of teach in that way, I usually like to learn from them.
Yeah, there's a channel called Control Paint. It's pretty cool. It teaches sort of Photoshop.
That was my thing every Thursday.
All right.
When it was active every Thursday, that was what I would watch.
Yeah, his thing is like it was really good because he's like, I'm not gonna teach you how to draw a dragon. I'm not gonna teach you how to draw a person. I'm not gonna teach you how to draw mechanics. I'm not gonna teach you how to draw a plane. I'm gonna teach you how to draw anything. Like after this, you will be able to draw anything you like. And that was the first time I heard that, and I was like, that's way better than these other channels and what they're trying to teach.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I also like
the other channels are gimmicks. It's a gimmick when they say like how to draw a dragon, and it's like you put a line here, a line here,
the line there.
Yeah, it's a gimmick,
Yeah, that's why that's why when I found about Control Paint, it was like before he like redesigned the website. He would like do his thing every Thursday, and like I think for like 2 or 3 years, every Thursday, I'm watching a Control Paint video, like a new one, and then eventually he was like, I'm just gonna restructure this so you approach it from like someone who's like a total beginner, knows nothing, and then that's what the site is like today. Where it's like broken up into different categories and whatnot. But going back to like the main point at hand, I gravitate towards people who are like, let me teach you how to think and not how to draw something specific.
Yeah.
That's also why I like Feng Zhu from like
Yeah,
the
Feng Zhu's
design
awesome.
cinema.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love it. Even though he talks really straight, and I mean, look,
he's
at
got
first
quite an
it was
interesting
hard.
personality. Yeah.
It is, but at first I was like, man, he called me like a bum or something. But then I'm like, I thought about like, I mean, if I think he's talking to me, then I probably feel like a bum. So then I would like go through his videos and like try to copy what he does, and then I was like, you know what? I'm okay with being called a bum initially because now I'm not one because I'm actually
Yeah.
trying to like grind it out. So yeah, so that's why I like Feng Zhu, but it's just that his videos are like really long, so I have a hard time going through them.
Yeah, they are. They're kind of unedited a lot of the time.
Yeah. So unless it's like something that I particularly enjoy, I look for like snippets. Or I mean, I try not to, but like it's just hard to because like a lot of it is either he sets his piece, and it's just kind of a lot of, like copy and paste in terms of what he's saying because it's so important, obviously. But like, there's only so many times that I can hear just draw slow, draw easy thing that are organic. I'm like, I get it, right? I get that. So I don't need to hear it like 20 more times in the video that's like already 2 hours long.
Yeah.
But no, I really like Feng Zhu because yeah, he also had the same. He said something similar where it's like you want to draw all this cool stuff, but you can't draw perspective, so of course you can't do it.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? That's right. That's facts. I can't deny it.
Yeah, that's that's like the first thing you need to like people need to know, but it's obviously not what they want to hear. Like, it's telling them something they don't want to hear. Like, they want to hear there's a quick hack that's gonna make you be able to draw Sakuga, and you know they want to hear that, but it's just not the truth. Like, the people who make their favorite animations, they have trained, like they've really worked hard for it, and they've like come out the other side of like this like really deep research over a long period of time with like instructors and things. Often they're like hand picked, you know, from like a class. You know, most of the class won't get to that level, and then they manage it and stuff. So it's like you know, you got to really work hard for it, and you got to like have that at least have that understanding that it's you know, it's complex, and you got to be ready to learn like a lot of different principles that are at play, not just a trick.
Yeah, cause I remember in our last conversation when I like first mentioned I wanted to like work in anime, and then you mentioned like how you're like, yeah, it's probably not what you expect. And what I wanted to say is, I'm pretty sure I know what to expect because I've been watching a lot of videos on like the industry for so long, and like how it actually is. And I even watched that interview you did with that woman who lives
Yeah.
in Japan, who's actually working in anime.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that video,
Nice.
and it makes and I get it, right? I totally get it. But like for me, it's like until I'm actually in the environment and I'm experiencing it firsthand, and I make an opinion based off of that, I would still want to try and break into the anime industry just until I get that firsthand experience and
Yeah,
be
then you
like,
can say you
maybe
did
I don't
it.
like, yeah, maybe because like I won't know until I do it because like maybe I don't like the work schedule. Maybe I don't like that I get paid per page, and maybe I'm too slow, so I don't get paid as much. Maybe I don't like that. So, and I don't want to like maybe work hard enough to where I can make enough money or whatever. But until I do it and experience it, I still am determined to work through it, I guess.
Yeah.
Though I will admit, when I first learned about it, it did take a heavy burden on me. 'Cause I'm like, shit, man, this is what I'm working toward, and it sounds awful. Fuck.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's got some deep-seated problems, I think. Not so much Powerhouse, just because they are in the US. They've probably got different legislation.
Yeah, like in the US, there's like unions. So like if you join a union, you're guaranteed you're guaranteed certain like not rights as if you're like But like
Oh
you're
yeah,
guaranteed
yeah.
certain things, like how much money you get paid. So like like especially like in California,
Yeah, it's not just
um,
that. It's that
yeah,
it's that the competition. I know that there are jobs in California that pay animation jobs that pay very well, six-figure salaries,
yeah,
to storyboard artists and stuff. So like they just wouldn't be able to. They can't do it like they do in Japan. Like with Japan, the problem is like that it's a really the whole model of it, the whole economic model is sick, because there are too many artists for one thing in there do it like offering the same thing, so supply and demand is already off balance. But yeah, it's also to do with budgets. Like you can't even blame the producers and the directors because they're just working with the budgets that they're allocated.
yeah.
But you can kind of blame them because they're not utilizing their negotiation leverage, probably. Like they should be negotiating much better budgets for their shows, and within reasonable deadlines as well. I think that fans don't mind waiting longer for a show to come out, for a season of a show to come out, especially if they're told like if you wait longer, it's going to be better quality. I think they won't mind that. They don't mind that it waiting longer for their show, and especially if you explain to them the process. So I don't know. They need a proper union there, I think, in Japan. This is what it seems to need.
I mean, if I were just from an outsider perspective, that's how I would feel. It's just a matter of how easy that would be, but but in my head, how I kind of like rationalize it, and it may be optimistic, but I'll take it anyway. Is kind of like how a lot of foreigners are working on anime nowadays.
Yeah.
Like it'll get to a point where there's enough foreigners where they can like do their own studio that produces work at a similar quality to like studios in Japan. But the only difference is maybe they pay their people better or they treat them better or what have you. So they kind of creates like kind of a competition. Because like as of right now, for anime, like you're not gonna find anything at that level outside of Japan. It's not the quantity or the quality, because with Powerhouse they're only really doing Castlevania, which comes out like what every other year, depending on when they start like the next season. Whereas in that time frame, there's like 30 animes coming out in that same time frame. Yeah.
It's because they're working themselves to death in Japan.
Yeah. So I mean again, it's optimism, Ragnite here.
It's
But
not
what
healthy,
it's not. And what I was gonna say is that but I feel like they can get away with that is because there's no one to compete with them. Cause like that's how I feel. It's like if there's no competition, then and like people who want to work in anime have no choice but to work for these companies that they know they'll probably like pay them like shit. But animers are like happy to work on like their favorite series or work on wherever, so they're willing to go through that temporarily for whatever word they think it is.
Maybe it's because a lack of awareness about the options that people have online. I'm gonna do a whole course on it, dude. I've been writing a new thing. It's like gonna be the size of a small book, and it's on it's going to be called Turning Pro, and it's going to be business fundamentals for animators specifically. It's a very, very niche subject, but I think it's one that's needed, like business and enterprise fundamentals.
No, that makes sense, because once you get into like the business side of things, yeah, the business acumen drops sharply.
Yeah.
And then people don't know how to charge for their own work, or they don't even know how much it's worth.
The average animator doesn't know the first thing about business, like nothing. It's scary how little they know about like basic stuff. Really basic. It's because they don't get taught in school. I don't know why. I had one lesson in 3 years of university that taught me about freelancing, about the business of freelancing.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't feel like it was important to put it in their syllabus because to be honest with you, like, the whole thing was geared to for people to go into the industry where they would be put on a regular salary and wouldn't really have to think about it. And he just made that, my lecturer made that lecture for just because he had a background in freelancing.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I was one of the only people in the room probably that was actually going to go into freelancing, who actually was currently freelancing at the time as well.
Yeah.
Like, while at uni. But that's, you see, that's how that's like the system. It's like a perpetual cycle. Like, the universities don't teach how to freelance. They teach, and they don't teach business skills typically. They structure the whole thing for how to get hired by a big studio. Okay. And so students believe that that's the only option that's available to them. And it's a cycle that goes round and round, and it's because basically the way universities make money is from parents paying for their kids to go to their school. And so when they're selling the course, when they're appealing to the course and they're selling it to the parents. And parents, their misconception is that to them success equals working for a big company, and that's the only thing that's on their minds. The teachers are selling them that, so they say, okay, yeah, our syllabus is directed completely to getting your son or daughter into the industry. That's what our purpose is, and that's the only thing we do,
Yeah.
And that makes them more money.
No, I definitely agree with that. Whereas people are just not aware of their options. No, I definitely get that, because I feel like if I didn't go down the route that I did, I probably would be the same way. But because I took a roundabout route, I had the opportunity to look at things from an outside in, and I realized that things weren't as good as I thought it would be, or things weren't as favorable as I thought they should be. And so it kind of gives me an idea, or it gives me like the mindset of, okay, like, I shouldn't, even though I want to work in anime eventually, like, I shouldn't treat it as like this kind of like holy grail of an industry. I need to see it for what it is.
Yeah.
And understand that I understand that even though, yes, there is something I enjoy and I love about it, but I have to see it for the reality is on the other side of that coin. It's also like a very destructive kind of industry, how it's kind of built. And it's kind of surprising how it's kind of functioning the way it is, because that wouldn't work. That wouldn't fly anywhere else, honestly. Yeah. So, and that's why that's why I had this kind of like optimistic thought of there will come a time where there will be enough people interested in anime, but also interested in the skills it takes to make one, to where they'll be able to generate competition, to where you don't have to work with the Japanese companies. And because there are a lot of foreign animators who work online, you can actually be in Japan, be trained in Japan, but work for someone in France or someone here, and they'll pay you more.
Yeah.
So then there's not that option to just go to like Toei Animation or whatever.
Yeah, I would look into France. Honestly, I'm more impressed by French animation, to be honest. I mean, it's more my thing, it's more my style.
Yes, it's fair.
It's more my taste, I'd say. Like, I aspire to be like Studio Lancashire and Gobelin and studios like that. Well, Gobelin's an academy, but like if you imagine them as a studio, like, because of the things they're producing, that's more what I aspire to. I don't know, I think the quality is higher. I don't know, it is a style thing though. I get that,
No, it makes sense because the reason why the style is important is because I mean, as much as I like anime, it's like there's only so many shows that I can watch about like kind of the same archetype of the same kind of character with like spiky hair that's that's indistinguishable from every other background character. Like, I totally get it, and for me, I'm willing to accept it if there's like a good enough narrative being told. And even though I love anime, I don't like consume the medium as heavily as like some people do. Like, I'm very picky about what I watch, and I'm willing to like go months without watching anything if it doesn't like interest me.
That's good.
And I think and like, you know, shows like, you know, Legend, like Castlevania or Legend of Korra or Avatar that in that matter are able to like tell a riveting story but have the aesthetics of anime in it. So
Yeah.
so I don't necessarily need that from Japan. I just need someone or a group of people who are like, you know what? I like anime, but I don't like all the stories they make over there. So I
Yeah.
don't make my own stories, but I want the style.
I don't know about you, but I'm sick to death of the tropes that go on in anime. You know, I swear, if I see another scene with like a girl falling on a guy's face, you know, with it where her pants are, you know, like a pants shot.
Yeah.
God, like, it makes me want to puke. Like how little they respect the audience, you know, like the fan service it's out of control, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would say so. I guess one thing I would say about it, and I do agree with it, and surprisingly enough, I haven't watched anime that have that trope predominantly there. There are other tropes that are there that I'm more okay with, but they're more of like story tropes rather than just fan servicey tropes.
Right.
But like the problem, and I don't like it, but it's kind of the reality of it is that those like a lot of their fan base are like those people who like that fan service stuff because they're the ones who are buying like those like couple $100 like figures of like these like of their waifu,
Yeah.
and that's like a good chunk of their revenue is like the figures. Like, if their revenue was mainly from the show, I don't think that would fly for much longer. But like, they're like, you got the show, and you can take your waifu home with you for it's like for like 30,000 yen, which is like here like $200 or something.
Gee. Yeah, it's a weird economic model, isn't it? I mean, they have
It
the
is.
same in the West. You know, like they have said that like toy sales is what drives the entire industry.
Which at first I thought was kind of like bullshit. When I see like some people who are like avid collectors or like even like YouTubers, and you see like their room, and you're just like, what is that? What is that huge statue of Batman you have? That's like almost lifelike.
Yeah.
What is that? And you're like, yeah, they're about that. So it makes sense because when you say like toy sales, you think of like action figures or whatever. And if that were the case, then like Toys R Us, which is like a popular toy store in America, wouldn't have like went out of business if that were the case.
Yeah.
But the classification of what a toy is kind of broad. So when you go into the collectible figures, then you're like, oh no, I get it. Never mind, I get you. But going back to my previous point was that, yeah, I do agree that there's just some tropes that are so tiresome that I can't watch anymore. But there are some works where I'll almost say like generational works that are like so good that I wouldn't want to like totally snuff out the entire industry because of
I
a
didn't
few
suggest
tired
that.
tropes. I know.
I mean,
that's
I think
why
it should be fixed. You know.
Yeah, that's why in my notion is I just think there needs to be more competition in that field because there isn't any. I mean, let me take a step back. It's not that there isn't any. There's not enough because you have like South Korean doing really good stuff. You have like Chinese anime doing good stuff.
China's, you know, they're having a new boom in animation. I think, Like some of the things that have come out from them recently have been really impressive, and I love the style they bring.
Yeah, like for Boruto 65, like the director was like a Chinese director.
Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah, so yeah, that's why I'm more optimistic about it, because eventually, because like even for like more recent anime now, you have people like Westerners working on it. You even have like Westerners doing like soundtracks for anime. So basically you got like one part of the pipeline being done by non-Japanese people, and it's just basically like an inevitable checkbox where you're gonna have different facets just checked off to where people outside Japan can do it or do it at that level, and then maybe I don't know 10, 20 years you're at a point where people are like opening studios where they are like, hey, we can do anime too, but we have actually like not bullshit stories and bullshit tropes.
Yeah.
And then you have like Netflix or whatever streaming service, so you don't have to like pay an arm and a leg to like have your stuff being broadcast. So I just feel like there's like a perfect storm happening. Again, this is optimism for the future, and I hope it is what I think it could be, where you just don't have a monopoly on a very popular medium. I mean, it may not happen, but hey, I'm willing to work towards that kind of a future.
No, I like the vision that you have. You've got a good vision, and you know what it needs. You want the West to step up their game and kind of join in the competition for adult animation. By adult, I mean like not just for
not
kids.
Disney.
Yeah, not Disney, but like things which, like animations which can treat their audience with like some respect, and like expect that the audience can listen to like topics which aren't just pure entertainment. Well, that maybe I'm just projecting onto your idea, but that's kind of what I would hope for as well.
Yeah, because I would say a good example of what we're both saying would be like Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, that's a cool film.
Cause yeah, it's a movie about Spider-Man, which you'll get kids instantly. But there are some like really interesting themes that they play on that someone like our age would be like, I mess with this. Like I really do. Like I remember I watched the movie twice in theaters, which I never do ever. Like the fact that they got me in theaters was already a miracle, but I paid for it 2 times. And like the line that got me, and I'm gonna do it verbatim, was like when Miles was like, Miles had just like messed up spectacularly, and like all the other Spider-Men are ready to go through like the final battle, and they leave him out of it. And then Miles asks like the other Peter Parker, like, how do I know if you're ready? And he was like, you don't. It's a leap of faith. And like that shit hit me. And then Peter, I was like, bro. I sunk in my seat like, yo, what the hell?
Spoke to you.
It did.
To you directly.
And that's what it felt like. So it has themes that as an adult I can appreciate and almost, in my case, relate to.
Yeah. And
there are pieces that exist in Western media that do that, but they're so scattered that no one knows about them. So it's really easy when you talk to like regular people, to where they're like, yeah, animation is like kid stuff, right? Like Disney, and it's like because Disney's like more prominent here, which makes sense, and that's their business plan, and that's cool.
Yeah.
I just feel like there's room for other stuff.
My opinion is that like your film should be your protest statement. Like if you believe that that there isn't enough like mature animation in the West, your film should protest that by being a mature film in the West, you know?
Yeah.
Be the change you want to see in the world, or whatever the quote is.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, maybe in those 10, 20 years, we make our own Akira, where they're speaking of it for years, for decades after the movies already came out. Like that would be sick. But for now, I just need the skills first. I want to steal all their skills, and then I'll use it for my own will, for my own devious plans. But going back to the animation, though, I do like how it's coming, and the thing that I like about it is like that part where I was having trouble kind of distinguishing like the form, where just after he pulls the gun out.
Yeah.
I kind of like how you did it, and I like how you kind of use the combination of motion blur and like some speed lines.
Yeah, like
kind of like speed path to indicate some velocity.
Tricky, that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I focused on movement there, turned them into speed lines where I was really unsure, and then just like, you know, this stuff I'm sure of. You can tell that I know what that is there. I know what it's meant to be.
Yeah.
This is not right, actually. So I mean, I could erase it. If it's hand drawn animation, you can kind of just, you know, you can kind of just make it like the audience's attention is here anyway.
Yeah, you can like finesse it.
Yeah.
You can either like close in tighter so that you don't see a lot of the other body parts or something. You can definitely like.
Yeah.
There's room for interpretation on it.
I was gonna change the end ones, but I don't have time. You know, I gotta call it a night there and give it back to you. That stuff, but that actually worked out pretty well. You know, the end thing, it still works. I was thinking of doing one where it's like he's pointing the gun more at the camera.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like putting the camera in the way of the action, like in between the confrontation. I find that that's quite engaging. But at the same time, it works like this. I think it works. The hand's been going pretty well with this little thing. You know, this thing you put in here. I'm not sure if it was on purpose, but you see the way it goes. Like the hand. Okay, so the finger drags behind there. You see.
Mm-hmm.
And then for this one, it kind of arrives. I accentuate a little bit. You can see where my lines are.
Yeah.
But it kind of goes like that, and then it comes back up for that, and then
that was on purpose. Yeah, because what I wanted was first the speed of him, like, you know, twisting his body, and then you have like a moment where he grabs the gun, and then it kind of accelerates to pointing the gun.
Yeah.
So I at least wanted there to be a moment to where audience can realize that, okay, there's a gun, he's grabbing it, and then boom, and then back to the action. He's whipping it out.
Yeah, one of the things about this bit here is that, well, you know about the gun there, but you see here, like, he was poised there to grab it before. If we go back to, okay, this is your original one. He was poised there to grab it, and then he grabs it. But look at the pose there, the whole thing, the whole body.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So the pose there, that's going to grab it, and that's grabbing it. You see, he puts his wrist down like that, but the rest of the body is kind of still. I just didn't.
Okay.
I wanted to put it in as like two different things. Like poised over it is one thing, but then grabbing it is another thing. So for this one I went like that, and then boom, he really sinks his arm into it. You see how he like probably straightens his arm out. Like the gun actually goes down. Because he, you know, like when you grab something hard, it's like, oh, like, and you kind of push it away as you grab it.
It's like it adapts the inertia of you throwing like the motion of your hand, so it kind of sinks in a bit before you actually like pull it out.
Yeah, I kind of kept this one the same, and then I just, you know, just did a bit more in between. He linked them up. You see how that's just linking them up there with the in between.
Yeah.
And having that kind of follow the curve there. So just letting that gun drag. You see that the tip of that gun is just dragged around. And yeah, with the camera angle as well, the camera view, you see the hand is what it's following here for this first part, because we don't see the gun yet. Hand. Mm-hmm. And here it's not fully following it, but I'm just thinking about, like, you see it's following the gun here. It's following the gun round, and that's what we're concerned with. That's what we're looking at for this whole turn here. Not really concerned with the body, so don't forget about the body. It's about the hand and the gun. Yeah. And to join this part up, because I got into a little fuddle here, because it was like, I need to bring it back to your drawings here, so I just did a little jump, like, it just went from this kind of medium close up, and then I did this one of, like, slamming it down, big smear there on him, like, bringing the gun down, and then it kind of just does this little jump. To bridge that gap, I just added a few little motion blurs coming outwards. If you think about, like, joining that up, I tried to do them in the direction. Obviously, on your skin would have made it way easier to figure out exactly where the line. There I go again with the excuse. Last time, promise. But yeah, just did that on one of the frames, just to, like, zoom, like, zoom out the camera a little bit. And yeah, you don't have to do that. You could actually add an in-between in, but I find, putting in that little, having it jump and adding in the motion blurs is much faster than doing a fresh in-between.
No, that makes sense. And I will admit that I wasn't even, like, thinking about, like, doing smears or anything at the point. I was just trying to, like, kind of register the movement.
Yeah.
And maybe if I had thought about it a bit more, I could have. Maybe the idea of obscuring the body with, motion blur or whatever would have hit me. Yeah. Eventually.
But you can add them in afterwards. Yeah. It's like an effect that you can add in afterwards. You don't have to build them in as you go, like I do.
Yeah, no, exactly. But it has given me at least something to go off of on my own stuff.
Yeah.
There's some ideas that I like that you did that I might want to incorporate in my thing.
I want to see them side by side and see what the difference is. I did mess a little bit with the timing. Probably didn't optimize it completely. But yeah, I just made it faster on bits that I felt should be fast, and then slowed it down for these waiting bits. There, I actually kept it, like, medium pace.
Yeah.
Because while it is a quick thing that's happening, you kind of want to see that gun turn around like that. Like, that's kind of visually pleasing.
Yeah, I think in mine that's what I did too. Is I wanted to show
I noticed
the gun
you did that.
Turning. Yeah.
You kind of cut, like, so you cut there, you left the camera there, let the gun leave the frame, and then cut to a different shot, slightly different, but then you kind of zoomed out for one of them, or maybe he moved back. What I did was I just joined them together. I just joined that with that. I actually took out those little frames here, and then figured out how to just mend it.
That makes sense. I guess how I was thinking about it was, and how I first approached it was, I did the actual, visually or mentally, I knew how the action would go.
Yeah.
So I did have that in that mental picture, and then if I wanted to, and then after that it was creating, like, a point of interest. And the interest was, like, the actual motion itself. So the minute he kind of starts reaching towards it was where I wanted the camera zoom to happen. And then from there, once you kind of get, like, a good view of the gun, then it's just the continuation of the movement. So he doesn't like in terms of, like, space, he doesn't, like, move anywhere. He's more or less in the same position, but it's just more of it gives you. But because of the camera zoom in and out, it gives you a sense that there was there was some sort of time and distance that was happening, because you're basically seeing the motion of him reaching for the gum, swinging it around, and aiming it. So it kind of gives the audience the way of like kind of going through that kind of hectic experience or this moment, even though using something as mundane as like pulling out an object, or in this case a gun. So that was kind of like how I was thinking about it, and I kind of wanted to do it something cool but like simple. So the cool thing was the camera view. Simple was like the actual posing and like the overall like camera movement. It wasn't like super crazy, but the zoom in and out was like my dynamic part, and everything else was kind of played straight. Was kind of like my thinking, just so I didn't like get in my own head, because I didn't like have I didn't have like the experience to kind of think about it and do this. I was trying keeping it simple.
Yeah, that's
adding some flair to it.
That is a good iteration on the exercise, that I set, because I did a few different examples, but I had the same camera setup, so that's the thing I didn't move. But you chose to do like very basic, just to, like you said, figure out where you are, and then the camera is the thing that you moved, and yeah, works well. The only thing is, I just think, when I think about editing and making cuts between shots, I wouldn't necessarily have in an unnecessary cut, like there and there. Did you take the? Oh no, you're not there yet on the course. There's a you might want to jump ahead for it to see what I mean, but there's a lecture called the 30-degree rule. And it's basically like, if two cuts are too similar, like, sorry, if the cut between like shot 1 and shot 2, if shot 1 is too similar to shot 2, it doesn't really make sense to cut between them. You're better off just moving the camera to have it within the same shot. Like here, the camera angle is pretty much the same. It's just it's like slightly off to the right on this one, and slightly off to the left on this one, and a little bit further out. They're not that far apart. There's no change in angle. It's just slightly different. So I just looked at that and was like, no need to have a cut there. Just join them up. And then like, the beauty of that is that you can follow the movement through the whole thing. Like, this is one movement, like, well, it's kind of two movements, but you stay with it the whole time. You don't have to collect your bearings at any point.
Yeah.
And that's the benefit of joining them up.
Okay, no, I got it. Yeah, because I guess another thing that I do, and maybe it's a crutch on my end, I don't know, is when I do cuts, I guess it allows me to kind of plan out, how I want to draw it, and I usually plan it out in a way that isn't too hard for me to do. So I feel like while we were talking, like I was watching you doing it, I will say there was like a bit of like trepidation on my part, because I was thinking like, man, I don't know if I would have be able to kind of figure that out. And I'm not, and again, you have been doing this longer than I have, so obviously I have to keep that in consideration. But at the same token, it was just like, man, I guess I wasn't sure until I get more stuff under my belt. So and I've noticed that how when I do my own original animation, when I'm not doing studies, I end up doing cuts for things, for parts where if I continue with the same scene, I would have to do something a bit drastic to kind of still retain that interest. So then in my head, I'm like, oh, let me just cut it, and then cut to something that's more interesting. So I personally don't have to fill in the gap from one interesting thing to another. I can just cut to it instantly, and then boom, interest retained. So the primary reason is more on a technical base. It's basically, I don't think I can do it technically to make it look appealing. So I feel if I cut it and I make it something that I can do, or I can learn to do in the time frame I have to do it, then I'll do it. But the thing that I'm afraid of, ironically enough, is that I don't want to fail at too many things and get very overwhelmed by it.
That's a good point.
Like,
That's
what
again-
I want to do is that I want to fail at two specific things, or a small specific group of things, so that it's easier to see my way out of the tunnel. Because if I fail at too many things simultaneously, it's really easy to get overwhelmed and discouraged. Because then I'll think, if I can't juggle 10 things at once or 5 things at once, then I'm no good. But the problem is I didn't pace myself well enough to handle a challenge that was bigger than I thought it was. And unless I'm like someone who's like very strong-willed and able to push through that much, adversity that I gave myself, obviously, then it's really easy to like, be overwhelmed and like give up on it.
You shouldn't try to learn multiple things at the same time. I mean, literally learning multiple things at the same time. I think focusing on one is the way to go. It's so hard to learn multiple things at once.
Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed listening to that little session. Once again, the links to where you can read about the full course are going to be up there and down below. You can sign on to the full course today and gain access to over 136 lessons in how to become a 2D animator. So click the link in the description to find out more, and I will see you over there. Goodbye.